Hello, and I'm really happy to be bringing you this presentation as part of VegfestUK's January online event. Now, I would usually be doing a seminar like this completely live, but obviously the world has had to adapt. But I'd just like to say thank you to Tim and Pete and the whole team at VegfestUK for continuing to give us a platform like this, even if we can't all be in the same room right now. And if you've been enjoying VegFest's content, the online events that they've been doing over the pandemic, then please do consider going and buying a virtual ticket to the event, or even making a donation through their Friends of VegFest UK scheme, because we all really need to do everything we can to help out event companies right now if we still want them to be here when the world returns to normal. But I still want to make this as close to a live event as I can, so I'm not going to edit this. You're going to get the full uncut version of me. And if you like that, then you can also hear me every week on the Vegan Business Tribe podcast, and that's on Spotify, iTunes, Google, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. So, who am I? Well, my name is David Pannell, and I'm the co-founder of Vegan Business Tribe. And if you have a vegan business, or you're thinking about starting one, then Vegan Business Tribe, well, we're here to support you and inspire you, not just to build a vegan business, but to build a successful vegan business. And today's topic is actually in response to a question that two separate people asked in our mentorship forum on the Vegan Business Tribe website. And I thought it was worth expanding the answer into this full seminar. And it's a question that you might have asked yourself when you first set up your vegan business. And it's, how big is the marketplace for a vegan business? And this is also a question that you might have been asked if you're working with a business advisor or an accountant who isn't vegan themselves. You might have come to them with this great idea for a business selling to vegans, or you might have said that you want to change your current business to be one that works with other vegan companies. And they might have winced at you and wrinkled up their nose and say, but vegan is a fad. Or they might have said, but the marketplace, it's just really not big enough. So now I could actually make this a really short recording. I could just say, trust me, the market is big enough. Thank you. And we'll end it there. But I understand that you might be in the position of having to convince someone else. So I'm not just trying to convince you here, but you might need to convince that non-vegan accountant, or maybe even your bank manager, or you might even need to convince your partner or someone else in your business that you're not just going to completely blow the company by heading down a vegan route. Okay, now, if you go listen to my podcast, I actually had a very good episode. It was episode 9, I think, which is one we talked about why businesses usually fail. And the first point that I made in that podcast is this: being passionate about what you do, that goes a long way in the success of any business. So, if you are passionately vegan, or someone recently said to me, they're so vegan that it hurts, then the chances of you succeeding with a business that aims to further the vegan cause, or that replaces an animal-based product with something else, it's just so much higher. And if you are working with a business advisor, they should know the role that passion plays in success. They should recognize that if this is a topic or a sector that you live and breathe, if it's something that just gets you out of bed in the morning, then to you, it will never just be a day job. You will find the tenacity and the determination you need to make the business work, because you care not just about the business, but about the customers that you are working with and the changes you're making in the world. And it might be that you already have a non-vegan business and you're thinking about changing that. And if that's the case, then think about the clients you work with at the moment. How much do you actually care about them? Now, of course, I've had a few different service businesses over the years, and I know how important it is to love your clients. But that doesn't always mean actually loving them. You make yourself love them because they're giving you money. You go the extra mile because it means they'll keep using you and you want them to be happy with your work or your product. But what if your business is doing something that actually allows someone to choose an animal-free product over the life of another being? Or if your company is helping someone live a better, cruelty-free life, or if it's supporting other businesses or professionals where this is their goal, then how do you feel about those customers? Do you love them even before they pay your invoice? And I'll tell you now that since I moved over to having two separate vegan businesses that I currently run with my partner Lisa, this is the first time where my customers have ever become my personal friends. This is the first time I've cared, not just because that influences the figure on the invoice, but because we're just all on the same mission. I actually want them to succeed. I want my clients to succeed, not just so that they keep paying their bills at the end of a month, but because I believe 100% in what they are doing. So I know that I've already convinced you about running a vegan business, but we still need to convince other people. So let's take a look at some stats. Now, what statistics you're interested in, that will depend on what your business is. So are you selling to vegans? Or maybe you're selling to other companies? Or maybe you're selling to other vegan companies? Or are you just selling to the general public? So you might be selling to everyone. And we can look at the statistics for each of these separately, starting with vegans themselves, because how many vegans are there in the world right now? Now, it might come as a surprise to you that not everyone in the world is vegan yet. And I know, I don't get that either, but you have to remember that because you are vegan yourself, or if you're watching this, then you're probably well on the way to becoming so, but you need to remember that our view of the world, it is biased. You will follow vegan influencers. You watch vegan YouTubers. You probably picked up a bunch of vegan friends on Facebook after going to vegan camp out or even VegFest when we were back in the real world. So you'll get a lot of vegan related stuff in your newsfeed. To you, vegan might be everywhere right now. But a lot of that is because the algorithms that oversee all our digital lives, they know that you are interested in veganism. And so they bring you more of what you like. When in reality, other people, they're not seeing the same news stories and vegan product announcements that you get. So to you, vegan might seem like it's everywhere right now. But the reality is, the best guess in 2021, which is when I'm speaking to you now, the best guess is that we're probably looking at about 2 to 3% of the population identifying as vegan. Some surveys, they estimate it's more like 5%. Some even say just 1%. But if you're vegan, not only can you pat yourself on the back that you're definitely an early adopter, but it also highlights just how much extra work there is still to do. Now, don't be put off by this though. 1 to 5% of the population, that's still a big figure. So here in the UK, and you have to remember we're a relatively small country of 67 million people, that's still 1 million plus people who would say that they are vegan. If you look at our global population of nearly 8 billion people, that's 250 million people worldwide. That's bigger than the population of Russia or Pakistan. So just how many customers are you looking to sell to? But remember, I'm vegan too. So of course, I'm going to say there are loads of vegans around the world. So to give you a fair idea of where these figures come from, let's actually dive into some of these stats and let's look at the figures behind them. Because the truth is, these figures are best estimates. because we are only talking about a low percentage of the general population. So there has to be some extrapolation there. There is a lot of data out there. But the problem we have is sometimes that data comes from a survey that only polled maybe a few thousand people, or even sometimes a few hundred. And if you ask 100 people if they are vegan and 2 of them say yes, then you haven't really asked enough people to get a clear picture of how many vegans there are in the world. Another problem we have is that the larger food studies on diet and lifestyle, they haven't singled out veganism as its own separate category. And often all non-meat eaters have just been lumped together in surveys, or they've classed veganism and vegetarianism as pretty much the same thing. However, a solid place to start when we're looking at stats is always with the Vegan Society figures, and they update these every couple of years. And these figures, they come from the Ipsos Mori surveys that the Vegan Society have commissioned themselves, along with independent surveys by the Food Standards Agency and I think it's the National Centre for Social Science Research. I might be wrong on that one. But all these great organisations, they've showed that, again in the UK, in 2014, 150,000 people, or 2.5% of the population, identified as vegan. So 2014, 150,000 people. In 2016, that figure had risen to 276,000 people, or 0.46% of the population, if my maths about right. And by the latest survey, which was 2019, that figure had more than doubled to 600,000 people who were identifying as vegan in the UK. And that's where the 1% of the population comes from. And these figures, they seem to have been repeated in similar surveys in other countries as well, with a 2020 YouGov poll suggesting that 2% of Americans identify as vegan. And now 2%, that might sound small, but that's 6.5 million Americans identifying as vegan. Okay, so it's also likely that we can continue to extrapolate those figures through to 2020 and 2021. However, one thing that those figures don't take into account is this global pandemic that we've all been living through, and we're pretty much sick and tired now, aren't we? But the upside of this is it's made people re-examine their relationship with animals. And a more recent survey conducted again by the Vegan Society found that 1 in 5 people in the UK have cut down on meat consumption during the COVID-19 pandemic. That's 1 in 5. And 15% have reduced their dairy and egg intake over the lockdown period. And we've seen similar studies in Germany, and they found consumers moving away from meat following some very high-profile coronavirus outbreaks at meat processing plants. And this is when we can start to look at some of this secondary data to give us a bigger picture and to show some of the trends of how veganism is growing. Looking at Google Trends, and Google Trends records how many people are searching for a specific term, their interest in veganism searches, that's increased 7-fold between 2014 and 2019. You can also look at Veganuary's sign-up statistics, which is a global campaign, if you've not heard of Veganuary, to try and get people to eat a vegan diet every January. And the number of people who are officially signing up to the campaign, that's almost doubled every year, with 400,000 people signing up in 2020. But my absolute favourite statistic, however, it's got to be Waterstones, the bookseller. Now, that might not be the first place you'd think of going and looking for your vegan statistics, but if you'd have gone to their website in 2018, you would have found 944 books with the word vegan in the title. Now, I've just done a new search before I started this video, and there are more than 10,000 books available. So absolutely everything is indicating that upwards trend, and it's indicating that it's only going to continue. One thing I will add in here, however, is that this data, it's only looking at people who identify as vegan. But as you will know, if you're a regular listener to my podcasts, you will know that over 90% of vegan meals are bought and eaten by non-vegan. So Beyond Meat's own customer research says that 93% of their customers are meat eaters. So 2% of the population are vegan, and yet all the major supermarkets now have their own in-house plant-based food ranges. 2% of the population are vegan, yet 10,000 books are available with vegan in the title. The Grocer magazine, they report that 62% of adults in the UK have bought plant milk. And again, 2% of the population. So that can't all be vegans buying these vegan products. Just nowhere near. And this is the thing to remember when you're looking at the size of the marketplace. It's not just a vegan marketplace that you are selling to. The whole plant-based marketplace might well be open to you and your company, which is closer to 60% of the population. And these are the people who are showing interest in vegan and plant-based products, or they're already on their plant-based journey, but they don't yet identify as vegan. So if you really want to know what the size of the market is for vegan products, then you've got these two answers. If your product is only suitable for vegans, then you've got around 2% of the population to have a go at. But 2% of either a global or a local population, that's still big figures. But on the other hand, if your product is suitable to everyone who has some interest in plant-based products, or they're just open to cruelty-free, or they're reducing their meat and dairy intake, or their reliance on animal products, then you're close to 60% of the population. So when your non-vegan business advisor or your accountant, they wince at you and they question if the market is big enough for vegan products, then you go back to them and you tell them that more than half of consumers have adopted some form of vegan buying behavior without actually identifying as vegan. And that number, it's only going to keep growing. So is that a big enough marketplace for them? Now, that's all good and well if you're selling to consumers. So if you make a product and you sell it direct to the end buyer, then you're what we call business to consumer or B2C. But what if you're a business and you're selling to other businesses, or B2B as we call it? And this might be where your accountant thinks that they've got you. You might be selling a service such as being a web designer or a vegan bookkeeper, or I don't know, even a vegan printing business. Okay, so we can prove there are plenty of people open to buying vegan and plant-based. But surely there are not enough vegan companies to support a vegan service industry, is there? And if you're going out there and saying that you're now only going to work and support other vegan companies, well, you might as well just throw your business down the drain, surely. Well, again, this is a really interesting conversation to have, because I've got a mailing list of about 1.5 thousand people who have vegan businesses who have signed up with Vegan Business Tribe that says that you're wrong. And if you went to VegFest at London Olympia when we were doing this in the real world, they were absolutely packed out with nearly 400 companies who had taken a stall there. And yes, there are less vegan companies than non-vegan companies, but how many new clients do you actually need if you're a service company? 10 a year perhaps, maybe even 1 or 2. You know, the last company that Lisa and I had was a service company, and I only needed 1 new major customer a year because of how much they spent on average. So yes, the marketplace, it might be smaller, but there's a big difference. If you're a vegan company yourself, then other vegan companies are going to want to work with you over non-vegan companies. They will at least take your call when they might not even have a conversation with other people. And sales and marketing, it's always a numbers game to some degree. But why choose to sell to the larger general marketplace where your success rate, it's only going to be, I don't know, 1 in 100, and you're up against everyone else. Instead, why not sell to a sector where your success rate might be 1 in 20 or even 1 in 10, and you've got a distinct advantage over your competitors? So this is called being niche or niche, if anyone from America is watching this, that they like to call it. But niche companies are always more successful. And as long as you can prove that the niche is big enough for you, so if you need more than just a handful of new customers every year, then let's see if we can work out how big the marketplace is. So let's ask the question, just how many vegan businesses actually are there out there? And this is where we have to be a little bit more forensic in looking at the statistics, because unfortunately, governments don't have an SIC code or a standard industrial classification code for if a business is vegan yet. So there is no easy data to look at. I can't just go to Companies House, so if you're in the UK, Companies House is where you register your business, and I can't go there and just pull up a list of all registered businesses that are vegan. But what I can do is I can take a damn good guess based on other available figures. So first, we can take a look at how many ethical businesses there are. And this is how a lot of vegan businesses first position themselves when they move over to offering a vegan service. Because yes, some people are put off by the word vegan, but nobody is put off buying services from an ethical company. And as part of you being an ethical company, that just means ensuring that none of your products or services cause harm to animals, because, well, why would they? And it's amazing how just this slight reframing of veganism can make it seem more reasonable to people who haven't yet connected with the term. Almost every company will say they are ethical, even the large energy companies who are actively tearing apart the world. They will push their ethical credentials. But what we want to work out is how many companies there are that have actually been set up to deliver an ethical agenda, not just who are saying that they're ethical companies. And for this, I'm going to be referencing UK data again, because if you might have been able to tell by my accent, it's where I am in the world. But each country has its own company records that you can check yourself. And in the UK, there are 3 types of businesses that we can identify as being set up on ethical agendas. And we've got some stats for these as well. So you've got CICs, and that's community interest companies. You've got social enterprises, and you've got charities. Now, currently, there are about 19,000 CICs in the UK, and this is growing by about 20% year on year. There are also about 470,000 social enterprises, and that's according to the official 2017 government statistics. And there are also 168,000 charities. So, from an approximate 6 million registered businesses in the UK, we're looking at about 10% of those come from these 3 ethically led sectors. And these are suggesting that these are indeed organisations that are led by their ethics, or what we refer to as a triple bottom line. And that's where social and environmental results, they matter just as much as profit. So that's 600,000 companies in the UK alone that care enough to have actually set themselves up with a legally binding ethical framework to do business, instead of just setting up a standard company. Now, surely, out of that 600,000, you could find a few that would want to buy cruelty-free services from an ethical vegan company like yourself. If not, could we speculate how many of the other 6 million businesses who are not CICs or charities or social enterprises, how many of them might be open to buying services from an ethics-led vegan company? Even if that means leading with an ethical message over a vegan one to first get your foot in the door. But again, how many companies do you actually need? Do we even need to be working out these figures? Surely that's enough. So instead, let's use this brain power. My brain is starting to hurt a little bit with all these numbers and statistics, but let's use this brain power and guesswork to try and answer our final question. So forgetting ethical companies that you can sell to, just forgetting those and putting those to one side for a moment, how many actually vegan companies are there? Now, I'm going to be honest, and I'll say that we are into speculation here. And the best we can come up with, until we have a mandatory universal vegan business register, well, the best we can come up with is an educated guess. But we can base that guess on facts. So, around 1,800 new companies are registered in the UK every single day, and that's according to Company House figures. And again, I'm using UK data because that's where I'm speaking to you from right now. But each country's got its own register, so you can do this exercise yourself where you are. So if we think and we accept that, say, 2% of the population identifies as vegan, that means through the law of averages, and again, a little bit of speculation here, but we've probably got about 36 vegans starting up a new business every day in the UK alone. Now, I think it would be a fair assumption to say that if you're vegan and you're just starting a new business, there's a really good chance that that company will either be a vegan company or at least it will operate on vegan ethics. So let's go on the conservative side. And let's say that a third of all the vegans starting their own company will start a vegan company. And this gives you a guesstimate of 4,500 vegan startups a year. 4,500, and that's just in the UK alone. And remember, we're a relatively small country, so just times that figure by the size of the world if you can deliver your services remotely. And just like if you're selling to consumers, you should think about, if your marketplace goes beyond those who actually identify as vegan. If you're selling B2B or business to business, as we called it before, then can you sell vegan services to non-vegan businesses? This might be something that you've not considered. Could this actually be your biggest marketplace? Now, Lisa and I, we've consulted with some of the biggest brands and food manufacturers in the world about entering into the vegan marketplace. And in the main, these are non-vegan companies, but they're wanting to pay for that specialist knowledge and expertise. There are a lot of companies making vegan products who are looking to engage with plant-based consumers, and they don't understand them like you and I do. And it's not just food companies. Think about the number of vegan residents in care homes. That's almost trebled in 5 years. So could your business provide those care homes with the expertise of how to cater for vulnerable vegans? And this might blow your mind. It might be something you've never spoken about. But the final point I'm going to make is that knowing all these stats and look at the marketplace, that might give you some answers, but it doesn't really make much of a difference. All it does is it gives you some evidence that there are some potential customers out there. What it doesn't give you the confidence that those customers will want to buy what you sell. And the way to really prove that there is a market and that the marketplace is big enough and that people are going to buy, the only way to prove that is to test. And that's how Lisa and I, that's how we started up Vegan Business Tribe, when we wanted to see if there was a marketplace of people with vegan businesses who were looking for help. We set up a very simple website and we put a little bit of money into Facebook advertising just to drive people to it. And during our test period, we were getting about 10 people a day signing up to the first version of the Vegan Business Tribe site. And that is how we knew that the marketplace was there. Not the stats, not the research, but the testing. Statistics and figures, they're really nice if you need to convince someone else, But unless you're trying to attract backers and investors, then the person that you really need to convince first is yourself. And you really don't need to throw the piglet out with the bathwater to do this. If you already have a business that you want to veganize, you don't have to sack your entire customer base, your current customers, to do that. Before you spend that time rebranding or refocusing to become a vegan business, just set up a quick one-page website. Create a download PDF that your target market will find really valuable and see how many people put in their email address to download it. And you can do all this whilst you still continue your current business. You can even create a separate brand that you can run alongside your current company whilst you test how people interact with it. Do some low budget social media advertising and just see how many people leave their email address in return for a download or a sign up to your mailing list or for more information. And this will give you an idea of interest, but it will also start to build a mailing list for you as well, because getting a business growing from scratch, it always takes far longer than you think it will do. And you'll find that this quick testing, it will give you far much more information and confidence than research or statistics or looking at the marketplace will ever do. Okay, so let's just have a little recap of what we've learned so far. In answer to that question, how big is the marketplace for a vegan business? Let's run through some bullet points just as a quick recap. So, number one, before you even think of researching the marketplace, just know that being passionate about what you do, that goes such a long way in the success of any business. If you are passionately vegan, then the chances of you succeeding with a business that aims to further the vegan cause in some way, those chances are just far, far higher. Point two, if you're selling to consumers or B2C as we call it, then most surveys and estimates, they put the number of vegans at 1 to 5% of the population. And this might not sound like much, but that's 6.5 million Americans, or it's more than 1 million vegans in the UK. I've had too much of stats in this seminar, haven't I? But that's rising year on year, and it's millions and millions of people. On to point three. Just remember, the big marketplace for vegan and plant-based products, it's actually non-vegans. More than 90% of vegan meals are eaten by meat eaters. Surveys suggest that more than half of consumers have taken on some aspect of vegan buying behaviour. Point four, if you're selling B2B or selling to other businesses, then the number of ethical businesses, that's huge, and it's very quantifiable as well. The number of vegan businesses, well, we've got to guess at that, but it's not an unfair guess that in the UK alone, there might be more than 4,000 vegan companies starting up every year. Point five, again, just like selling to consumers, it might be that your biggest market as a vegan B2B business might be selling to non-vegan businesses who need your specialist vegan knowledge, expertise, and advice. And then finally, point six, never put your faith in stats. Go out there and test instead. Put together a one-page website, drive some traffic to it, and just see how people interact, and you will learn so much more from that. So that should have given you some confidence now if you're thinking, is the marketplace big enough for a vegan business? And if you've got right to the end of this session, then that means hopefully you actually found this useful or at least interesting. And if you want more content that's just like this, then please do go check out the Vegan Business Tribe website and the Vegan Business Tribe podcast for new free content every week. And we've also got a paid membership, and that's only $12.99 a month. And that will give you full access to our vegan marketing course, our live online networking, our business clinics and our seminars, as well as being able to ask your own vegan business questions, just like this one, because remember, that's why we're talking about it today. Somebody posted it in the Vegan Business Tribe mentorship forums for Lisa and I to answer. So that's it. I've been David Pannell from Vegan Business Tribe, and I would love to see you over at our Vegan Business Tribe website and community and just get involved and meet other like-minded vegan entrepreneurs. And as I said, if you're able to buy a virtual ticket or make a donation to VegfestUK just for giving us this platform, then hopefully when we return to better times, I'll still be able to deliver a session like this to you in person next time. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one.